Yeah, I hope that you hearing me. This is the future, all about cybersecurity. Talking about the hackers, I'm just trying to warn you. From the one and only legend, the cyber informer. Hey, thanks for joining the podcast. Time to get it hype. This I know you gonna like, giving you some insight. They try to hack in your database, homie, not today. Thinking they can escape with your data and without a trace. Loyal IT Solutions, we get it started. All of this hacking your data, it's time to stop it. Yeah. This is the cyber reformer. This is the cyber reformer. Let's go.
It's time for Cybersecurity Business Connect and Protect Central Coast, the podcast. This is episode 5, Hacktoberfest. This episode is brought to you by Loyal IT Solutions. For all of your IT business needs, visit loyalit.com.au for more information on how we can help your business. And by the Gosford Erina Business Chamber. To have your business voice heard, become a member now. Visit us at gebc.com.au. And by the Australian Federal Government. Welcome to Cybersecurity Business Connect and Protect Central Coast, the podcast. I'm Michael Tremblett, the Cyber Informer, at cyber_informer on Twitter. This is going to be a great show. Welcome to October, or as it's known as Cybersecurity Awareness Month, or as I'm calling it, Hacktoberfest. In this episode, we're going to take a break from the Essential 8 topics and focus on various different cybersecurity topics that are relevant to everyone. This month is a special month. Not only are we posting this podcast, but we have a couple of additional podcasts coming up in the next few weeks. Next week, we'll have a chat with Anna Cruikshank from Aubrey Brown Lawyers about her identity being stolen. Anna will talk about how difficult her life has been since having her identity stolen. She tells us what the hackers have done and continue to do, and she gives us some advice on how to minimize the impact of identity theft. If there's one podcast you need to listen to, it's next week's podcast. The week after, we speak with Richard Cotter from SoftGen. Loyal IT Solutions partners with SoftGen to provide security solutions to small and medium businesses. Richard has done a deep dive into cyber insurance and he will share the results with us. We'll talk about who needs it, why you should or shouldn't get it, and what is covered by cyber insurance. Plus, he covers a number of frequently asked questions about cyber insurance, including how to decrease your premiums. If you're looking to save some money on your cyber insurance, episode 7 will be for you. Before we get into the topics of the day, in celebration of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we are very excited to announce we have now opened the Cybersecurity Academy at cybersecurity.loyalit.com.au to everyone for free. For a shortcut to the Academy sign-up page, go to loyalit.com.au/academy. There are many Q&A and how-to videos plus fact sheets, and everyone who registers for the Academy can access a private Facebook group, which will allow you to interact with me and other members of the group. Ask your questions and I'll answer them. Your questions will help fuel future content. Topics covered include deep dives into all of the Essential 8 topics, locking down your Microsoft 365 and Facebook accounts, a look at password managers, we answer the question, do I need a VPN? And we look at topics like what is ransomware and what is the dark web. 7 new videos will be added this month, including setting up something called passwordless authentication in Microsoft 365. I'll talk a little about this later in this podcast. Okay, the first topic of this podcast is about the Equifax hack of 2017. This is an important primer for the next podcast episode. According to Wikipedia, Equifax Inc. is an American multinational consumer credit reporting agency. It is one of the 3 largest consumer credit reporting agencies, along with Experian and TransUnion. Equifax collects and aggregates information on over 800 million individual consumers and more than 88 million businesses worldwide. In other words, they hold a lot of personal information about individuals and businesses worldwide. Still reading from Wikipedia. In September 2017, Equifax announced a cybersecurity breach, which it claims to have occurred between mid-May and July 2017, where cybercriminals accessed approximately 145.5 million US Equifax consumers' personal data, including their full names, social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, and driver's license numbers. Equifax also confirmed that at least 209,000 consumers' credit card credentials were taken in the attack. 6 months later, on March 1st, 2018, Equifax announced that 2.4 million additional US customers were affected by the breach, increasing the number of affected to 147.9 million Americans. The company claims to have discovered evidence of the cybercrime event on July 29, 2017. Residents in the United Kingdom, 15.2 million, and Canada, about 19,000, were also impacted. The vulnerability in which the Chinese hackers leveraged was CVE 2017-5638. The hackers managed to stay in the Equifax systems undetected for approximately 134 days. Not reported in the Wikipedia article was the fact that Australian records were also breached in the attack, and Anna and her business partner's personal details were part of that breach. CVE 2017-5638 does not have a cool name like some of the other exploits we've covered in the past, like Print Nightmare, Heartbleed, or Meltdown. Reading from MITRE.org, the Jakarta multi-part parser in Apache struts has incorrect exception handling and error message generation during file upload attempts, which allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary commands. In English, this means hackers exploited a vulnerability on their website which allowed them access to their internal systems. This vulnerability was found in March 2017, and the attack on Equifax occurred in mid to end of May 2017, 2 months after the vulnerability was fixed. This means no one was patch updating the Equifax servers, and the Chinese hackers from China's People's Liberation Army took advantage of that, and poor Anna had to suffer the consequences of Equifax not securing their systems properly. Do you hold personal information about your customers or businesses you deal with? Could a data breach cause them suffering like Anna has to endure? Are your systems being updated at least monthly? There are real consequences for people who trust you to keep their data safe. Speaking of hacked databases, in late September 2021, just a couple of weeks back, an internet website hosting company called Epic, with a K, was hacked. This was a huge data breach of 180 gigabytes of data. This included over 15 million users' personal information behind the privacy hosting website and register service known for hosting fascist, white supremacist, and other right-wing content, as well as harassment and doxing websites. It was all released for free on the dark web. This to me sounds like the work of hacktivists. Hacktivists are people not out for profit, but they use their skills to fight for free speech, human rights, or freedom of information movements. Michael Goodwin, Loyal IT's managing director, received a notification from the awesome website haveibeenpwned.com, where it notified him there was a data breach and his name was part of the 180 gigabytes of leaked data. Before you accuse him of being a white supremacist or neo-Nazi, no, he did not have an account with them. But it was discovered that Epic was harvesting information about anyone who had registered a domain anywhere in the world. They gathered this information likely for spamming purposes. What this means is that you don't need to have an account with them, you simply have to own a domain, and in our case the domain is loyalit.com.au, which has Michael's name and email address as the contact information. That's all public information anyway, but it has been neatly collated by Epic, and their efforts are now in the hands of hackers on the dark web. Nice. Reading from the TechCrunch article, a library used on Epic's Who Is page for generating PDF reports of public domain records had a decade-old vulnerability that allowed anyone to remotely run code directly on the internal server without any authentication such as a company password. Just like the Equifax hack, Epic failed to update their website, which left a critical vulnerability allowing hackers to simply walk in. Again, I ask, have you or your web developer updated your website recently? In light of these two hacks, now's a great time to start asking these questions. A quick shout out to haveibeenpwned.com. That's Hotel Alpha Victor Echo India Bravo Echo Echo November Papa Whiskey November Echo Delta.com, which is a fantastic resource to know if your usernames and passwords have been leaked online. Check it out and enter your email address to see if your data has been leaked. Go to the password section to see if your password is known to hackers. You can also sign up for notifications, like Michael had, for when your data is leaked on the dark web. Speaking of hacks, and one that is ongoing as this podcast is recorded, have you heard of a DOS attack, or denial of service attack? In cybersecurity, we often talk about the CIA triad. All hacks attack at least one of the three pillars, which are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Many of the hacks we've talked about already have focused on confidentiality and integrity, not so much on availability. This is where DOS comes in. A denial of service attack is designed to take systems offline. It could be as simple as an attack that causes a server to crash, or it could be an orchestrated attack by many thousands of computers or devices aimed at a single network or server, causing it to be overwhelmed to the point where it cannot perform the task it was designed for. This type of attack is a distributed denial of service attack, or a DDoS attack, where thousands of zombie computers and devices are weaponized and designed to attack websites and businesses. You might ask, doesn't that defeat the purpose of hacking? How does taking a server offline allow a hacker to profit? If you think about it in your business, what would cripple the way you work? What if your server went offline? That would hurt your business until it was operational again. What if your email went offline? That would hurt you and all other businesses using that email service. What if SharePoint, Dropbox, or Google Drive went offline? For those businesses in the cloud, that would hurt your productivity too. Thinking as a hacker, what if something more critical to business went offline and you could find a way to monetize it? I'm talking about your phones. The phone is the lifeblood of many small and medium businesses, Loyal IT included. What if you could no longer take incoming calls or even make outgoing calls? Most phone services these days are what's called VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol. This uses internet technology to make and receive phone calls, much in the same way as Microsoft Teams and Zoom use internet technologies and bandwidth to make voice and video calls. Even your mobile phones use this technology. If your phones are on the same network as your computers, you may have noticed that if someone is copying a large amount of data to or from your cloud service, like SharePoint, you'll get a degraded phone call quality. There are technologies to help with this problem, such as setting quality of service in your internet router, which allocates a certain amount of internet bandwidth for your phone calls, essentially prioritizing your phones over anything else. But what if the bandwidth problem is not at your end, but at your phone provider's end? This is precisely what UK-based VoIP Unlimited is suffering from. Their phone network is being targeted by hackers using the Mirai botnet. We'll talk about Mirai in a moment, where a massive amount of data is being aimed at their servers and point-of-present devices, essentially consuming all of the internet bandwidth so services are no longer available to be used. Their website voip.ms is also being affected. We have businesses that are in place to prevent this sort of attack on websites. You may have noticed some websites you visit, you have to wait a while your browser is checked before the website appears. This is a denial of service prevention service sitting between you and the hosted website. The purpose is to absorb or deflect any denial of service attacks on websites. Sadly, that sort of technology is hard to implement on VoIP systems because you are not using a browser, so the service can't do initial checks to make sure you're real and not a bot trying to flood it with garbage data. Phone calls use a technology called SIP, or Session Initiation Protocol, which uses a text-based protocol with similar syntax to that of HTTP or the same standard that websites use. The theory to prevent DOS attacks is similar but different, harder to implement and can be expensive. Enter the hackers. This DOS attack has now been dubbed a ransom DDoS attack. This DOS attack has now been dubbed a ransom DDoS attack. Instead of ransomware locking your data, this ransom attack takes your core business, affecting thousands of businesses offline. According to sources, VoIP MS has over 80,000 customers across 125 countries, so they aren't a ma and pa operation by any stretch. The ransom note was posted on Pastebin, which is a public posting website where any number of things can be posted anonymously. And guess who signed the demand? The REvil gang. Have they re-emerged from obscurity? We noted some of their handiwork in our first podcast, and in podcast episode 2, we noted they disappeared. Well, it seems they're back, or someone using their name is back. Originally, the ransom was a single Bitcoin, which is worth about $45,000, but then revised the ransom up to 100 Bitcoins when the attackers realized what they had. VoIP Unlimited commented to say it was a colossal ransom demand, and I agree. $4.5 million in Bitcoin. Yikes. This attack doesn't have the regular hallmarks of the REvil gang. However, it seems they may have re-emerged and back to their old tricks again. But before we talk about REvil, let's talk about the technology behind this DDoS attack, the Mirai botnet. The Mirai botnet has been around for many years. It was found in August of 2016 and has been used in some of the largest denial of service attacks on the internet. It was originally used by its creators to take Minecraft servers offline. The code was released to the public so anyone could build their own Mirai control software. What makes Mirai so powerful? Mirai has managed to infect exposed Internet of Things or IoT devices. It sets up base and scans for more IoT devices to infect. Mirai then identifies vulnerable IoT devices by using a table of more than 60 common factory default usernames and passwords, and logs onto them to infect them with the Mirai malware. This sets up a listener, and it waits for commands. One of the recommendations of the Essential 8 is to not use default settings for devices for this very reason. If you can access your security cameras, smart light bulbs, or other internet-connected devices remotely, then you may be unknowingly contributing to the Mirai botnet. Infected devices will continue to function normally except for the occasional sluggishness and an increase of bandwidth use. A device remains infected until it is rebooted, which may involve simply turning off the device and then after a short wait turning it back on again. After a reboot, unless the login password is changed immediately, the device will be reinfected within minutes. Upon infection, Mirai will identify any competing malware, remove it from memory, and block remote administration ports. In other words, it wants to be the only malware on your IoT devices. With the popularity of the NBN and greater bandwidths available worldwide, the attackers can utilize your upload bandwidth and aim it at a target such as VoIP.me. Your bandwidth alone will not make a dent, but multiply that by 20,000 devices from 125 different countries, and you have a lot of bandwidth at your disposal, which will take just about any service offline. Cloudflare is a company that specializes in DDoS protection, and it boasted that it was able to stop the largest attack it has ever seen, tipping the scales at 20,000 devices from 125 different countries, amassing a huge 17.2 million connection requests per second, consuming 1.2 terabits per second. Considering your internet connection may be 100 megabits per second, 1.2 terabits is thousands of times bigger than your regular internet connection. 1000 megabits is a gigabit, and 1000 gigabits is a terabit. The fastest network I've seen is 100 gigabits, which is a nice speed for internal networks, so a terabit will easily take down your internal network, never mind your internet connection. DDoS attacks are not the only thing botnets are used for. If you listen to the interview with Gabby on podcast episode 3, it was Gabby's guess that it was a bot that was responsible for her hack, and she's probably right. Not only are botnets used to take sites offline, but they can be used en masse to use credentials that have been leaked online to perform password spraying attacks. If you remember, this is where leaked usernames and passwords are used to try and log in to any and every service they can. This is why it is so important to have different passwords for every internet service you use. It's scary to think what's sitting out there under hackers' control. Speaking of scary, the hacker group Revil is back and up to their old tricks. Where we left them, they had shut down their dark website, leaving all of the victims of the Kaseya hack without a way to pay the ransom. Turns out the FBI had seized control of the key, which led to the publishing of the decryption key, saving the data of many thousands of businesses. Now they're back after 2 months of going dark. Apparently the key getting loose was because of one of the Revil gang coders misclicked and generated the universal decoder key rather than a decryption key for a single machine. See, even hackers make the mistake of clicking on things they shouldn't. In this case, it costs the group ransoms totaling $45 million. Ouch. I wouldn't want to be the guy who clicked on that wrong button. They have re-established their dark website, which they call the Happy Blog, which showcases samples of data they have exfiltrated from their victims so they can extort Bitcoin from them. I visited the Happy Blog, and looking through the data they have posted as samples just makes my stomach churn. On the main page we see posts from an architectural group, a plastics company, legal services, a water company, and of course the Kaseya hack proof is there too. Some of the sample data that is available as proof is passports, driver's licenses, court case documents, client lists, and sales spreadsheets. It is really disturbing what's on their blog. Here is what they wrote about the legal firm they breached. Keep in mind, they are Russian, so the English is not perfect. It reads, "We got all sensitive info of they clients, social security numbers, date of birth, court case, etc. All they databases. Also, we downloaded all financial info and employers' personal data. If you think they are worried about your personal data, no, they don't. In private talk, they tell us that the clients can F themselves. We don't worry about data leak, and they're nothing to discuss. So if you are looking for a good legal services, don't use they services if you don't want what yours private data will be shared to everyone. All data will be sold on dark market." Through the broken English, it's clear what they're saying. This is truly scary. I keep mentioning the next podcast, but it's a really important discussion. Anna runs a law firm who holds a large amount of personal data. They have spent a lot of time and money fortifying their defenses because they take data breaches very seriously. All professional services should take a leaf from Anna's book. Keep your data safe. It's clear this American legal service didn't take precautions, and it would seem they don't care too much about the data breach. How many of their clients will have their identities stolen due to this breach? There are 25 pages of listings on the Happy blog, each with about 10 companies on each page. All of these businesses not only have had their data encrypted, but their pre-encrypted data has been exfiltrated for what I call the 1-2 punch of ransomware. If the extorters can't get paid for encrypting data, they will get paid to not release the data to the highest bidder. Moving on. If you have your data in the cloud, how can you protect it from being breached? We've talked about the 3-2-1 backups in the past, which is great, but prevention is always better than a cure. If you have Microsoft 365 with SharePoint, there is an excellent new feature called passwordless authentication. This means you do not need a password to access your Microsoft account. This has been implemented for all Microsoft accounts, whether they are personal or business accounts. How is not having a password more secure than having a password? Passwordless authentication is a new take on multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication relies on something you know, something you have, and/or something you are. What if all three can be combined? To use passwordless authentication, Microsoft requires you to have multi-factor authentication set up on your phone with either a PIN or biometrics to unlock your device. Let's assume biometrics. When you enter a username in the online form, you'll get a number displayed on the screen. This 2-digit number along with your username can be counted as something you know. A notification is sent to your phone, which is something you have. Unlocking the device with biometrics is something you are. Essentially, you have 3-factor authentication. The notification will consist of displaying 3 2-digit numbers. One of the numbers will match the 2-digit number on the screen. You must select the correct number to unlock and enter your account. I demonstrate this in the upcoming video. This authentication method is the way of the future. Microsoft have made the first move, and it has been reported that Apple and Google will have their versions of this coming out soon. It will make it practically impossible to hack online accounts. Exciting times are upon us. The Academy video will be released later this month, on October 27 if I'm not mistaken, which showcases passwordless authentication. Remember, the Academy is now free for all, so head on over and sign up, and check out some of the great content we have in the Academy. This is where we normally talk about what happened in the real world last month, but all we've done is talk about the real world. So I'll quickly touch on Microsoft Windows updates this past month, which is September 2021. One of the bigger fixes was a flaw that could allow a malicious Microsoft Office document to invoke part of Internet Explorer, which could be used to compromise Windows 10 and Windows servers. This was already being used in the wild, so this was referred to as a 0-day, meaning it was used by hackers before there was a patch for it. Another good reason to make sure your updates are being applied to your workstations and servers. All in all, there were 86 vulnerabilities patched, with 3 being critical. Remember, critical vulnerabilities are the ones that hackers love because critical usually means easy to exploit. Remember, make sure you're updating your computers and servers regularly. As promised last month, I was going to share with you my top 10 favourite hacking tool names and what they do. At number 10, Why So Serial? Its logo is ASCII art of the Joker's smile. Why So Serial is a website hacking tool used to exploit unsafe deserialization in Java. 9. Wireshark. This is a packet sniffing utility used to watch traffic as it goes over the wire or Wi-Fi. I talk in some detail about packet sniffing in the Academy video, Do I Need a VPN? This is the tool hackers would use to sniff your traffic. 8. John the Ripper. This is a tool used to crack password hashes and encrypted passwords. 7 is Hashcat, a similar tool to John the Ripper used to crack passwords. I used this tool in the Academy video, How to Guess a Password Part 1, where I show you how to use the tool to crack a random 8-character password. 6. SQL Ninja, used to break into web apps that use Microsoft SQL Server as its database. 5. Rotten Potato, and a newer variant, Juicy Potato, which allows a hacker to escalate their privileges from a standard user to a system user on Windows 7 through to Windows 10 computers. Number 4. Empire. The logo for this tool is an ASCII art picture of a stormtrooper's helmet. This is a command and control tool which allows you to send commands to a computer after it has been infected with its beacon agent. The technology is similar to the Mirai botnet, but this focuses on PCs and servers. Number 3. Hydra. This is a password hacking tool which can be used to perform brute force or dictionary attacks on almost any system or website. I use Hydra in the How to Guess a Password Part 2 Academy video where I demonstrate how to use the tool to hack my QNAP NAS device. Number 2. The Fat Rat. This is an exploiting tool which compiles a malware backdoor product, and then the compiled malware can be executed on Linux, Windows, Mac, and Android. Number 1. Metasploit Framework. Whilst this is not a humorous name, it's a contraction of metadata and exploit, which is one of the core tools used to hack systems. It's a Swiss Army knife of hacking tools which can be used in almost any hacking engagement. Cobalt Strike is another tool which is very similar to the Metasploit framework, but it's not free. There are many other tools, but these are among my favourite. All of these tools except Cobalt Strike are freely available for anyone to use. Moving on to the challenge for this month. Last month, I issued you a challenge to make sure you know how you're backing up your data. Did you do it? This month, I want to issue you a different challenge. If you use Microsoft 365, get multi-factor authentication set up with passwordless authentication. This will make your Microsoft 365 account bulletproof. I'm using it, and I love it. Remember, this month is International Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Both the Australian Cybersecurity Centre and the United States government is celebrating Hacktoberfest this month. Head over to Facebook and follow our page at facebook.com/CSBCAPCC. Follow our other social pages as well at CSBCAPCC on Twitter, which will keep you updated on everything cybersecurity, business, connect and protect Central Coast related. Also follow my Twitter account, which is at cyber_informer. This is a big month for the Cybersecurity Academy, with all content becoming free to access and 7 new videos going live this month. There are another couple of surprises coming up too, so stay tuned to all the socials for more announcements. Sign up for the Academy at loyalit.com.au/academy or follow the links at cybersecurity.loyalit.com.au. Next month we'll be doubling up our Essential 8 topics. We'll be talking patch operating systems and patching applications. There will also be accompanying videos on the Academy. Don't miss it. The upcoming Academy videos include a look at social engineering. We look at the federal government's scam message quiz, which focuses on how to determine what's a scam and what is not. We look at physical security, how to share data securely on the internet, data breach reporting. We look at secure messaging apps and which one is my favorite to use, and we go passwordless with Microsoft 365. So a lot of interesting topics coming up this month. A quick shout out to the Gosford Erina Business Chamber. We have a new podcast called Open Chamber. If you do business on the Central Coast and want to be kept up with what's happening in the business world, this podcast is for you. Search Open Chamber on Apple or Google Podcasts and on Spotify to listen. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast using your favourite podcatcher and follow us on social media. Until next time, stay safe online.